today, but we've got the lovely Glenn with us to help. Yeah, I hope everyone had a lovely Monday, and for those who had a long weekend, I welcome you into the week, and I hope you feel refreshed after a deserved break. Today we've got Glenn Edley from Spike, who'll be taking us through a how-to session on how to generate leads at live events and expos. This is a super cool topic because I'm from a digital marketing background, but I always know that like the presence in person is really important. So I'm ready to learn. I hope you are as well. This is a great chance to get your questions answered by an expert like Glenn. So use the Q&A and chat function on Zoom, or the comment section if you're tuning in on Facebook or LinkedIn. And yeah, just make sure you get your questions in. It's a great chance. And yeah, that's all from me for now, Glenn. If you want to take over, do you want to do questions at the end or throughout?
Yeah, let's do questions at the end. So as you're going along, if you do any, I'll remind your people as well. Just dump them in the chat or in the questions, and we'll have a good Q&A at the end because with the country in red, I thought this was interesting, right? Like, how are we going to work through this? So I'll put some other stuff in there as well, just because, to be honest, Tip, as I was going through this, I was like, man, I wonder how many people are going to live events. So I started asking people, and a lot of people are staying away. So I'm like, okay, how do we do this? So hopefully this will be really useful for people. So I'll share my screen, and we'll crack into it. I'll just hide my view.
Yeah, that looks good, by the way. So
thank you. Right. Good morning. So how to generate leads at live events and expos. So as I just said in the intro there, I think there's a bit of reticence of people, a bit of reluctance to go to some live events, but I do feel you are going to be out and about. You do own a business. You might be going to markets. And I think that, you're still going to have to be asking people. You should be asking people for their contact details. So, at the end of today, the outcome is going to be multiple ways to generate and collect those leads. So I'm just going to start my stopwatch as I like to do, and we'll get going. So, hey, I'm Glenn. I help businesses convert customers into cash. I believe that the value of your business is in your customer database, and that email marketing is the most effective way to stay top of mind and prompt the actions from your customers that'll unlock that value. Would you like to send a weekly email to your customers that gets opened, clicks, and generates cash from your business? I know a lot of people do. If you do, I can help. And at the end of today's workshop, I'll share how. So this is my brag page because, someone's got to do it, right? But it's changed a little bit over the holidays, to be honest, because that 5 low-cost marketing tactics. If you go onto YouTube, search MailChimp, and look for my face and then click on it, you'll see there's been near 16,000 views. It's one of the most highly viewed videos on their channel. And if you're, a regular Digital Boost person who's turning up, Digital Boost attendee, you will have had a lot of those tips before. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Obviously, I'm at Digital Boost. I'm with Tip today, Anna Marie 6. So that's hence the photo of her. You can find me on the front page of MailChimp's expert section. The other place to find me is on LinkedIn. And I've really started posting a lot more on LinkedIn, and I've got some tips on that at the end. So what we're going to cover today, I really thought we'd dive into some case studies, because I feel like that's the way that we'll be able to get through, things that apply to your business. So Kelly Woods, going to go through some tips and tools. Duncan Venison, QR codes are back. I've said this before, but QR codes are back, and you need to be taking advantage of them, because in a very short time period, 2 years, suddenly, New Zealanders are very used to using QR codes after many years of not. Another case study was Sangyong, your favorite Korean brand. Are they Korean? And the line to use and where to start. So the line, I'll tell you all about my favorite line. So Kelly Woods. So Kelly Woods online sales are very eco-friendly. They sell stainless steel straws. They are very good. My kids like to clean their own, and they have lasted for many years and well worth having if you want to have, if your kids like using straws to drink out of, especially, you know, not to be replacing plastic or paper ones all the time. Kelly would sell really cool stainless steel ones. So they set a goal of 3,000 in sales for the Go Green Expo, and they also wanted to grow their database. So what we did, and this is going to become apparent, that competitions and giveaways are a very good prompt when you're out at expos and at markets and places, because you do need a hook. So you need something, because it's not online, right? So you need something to hook them in and to give and to get them to hand over their email address. So, you know, we used a competition as the hook, and we also used paper and pen for people to sign up. And the reason we did this is because they had seen that it was a very effective way to do it, and we could have them at either side and of the little thing that they had set up, and they were able just to talk and engage with customers and just send them over to those things, right? And send them over to the sign up forms, and it did actually lower some hurdles to sign up, because, like, you know, having a couple of clipboards there, you know, not just having one, make sure you've got 2 or 3, just so it's easy for people to sign up. The outcome was that her sales target was actually surpassed by 200%, which was huge. It was a very small expo, but almost 300 people signed up for follow-up communications, and that was a database increase of over 20%. She was super impressed with this. So were we. And an issue though, and here's the issue with sign-ups with paper and pen, right? You can't rely on people to write clearly. So you need to make sure that on your piece of paper, you spell out exactly what you want. And you maybe even ask them to do it in capital letters, because, you know, if they want to be in the drawer, you need to make sure that you can read their email address. So because of illegibility, and even we had incorrect details, and it was actually not that great. And so we had to go back through it again, and actually, and this is where we found, actually, just a little aside. So we used a specific data person to help us, like, so we used OCR, and then we used a person to go through the data. And here's an interesting thing, like, we outsourced that. I think we used someone on Upwork, and they're very good. But when we went back through them again, you know, we were able to pick up email addresses and spelling that they weren't able to do. And so this is something where you can't just rely on people who speak English to actually be super accurate with your data. So you definitely need to get someone local to go through it as well. So get them to do the bulk of it, and, you know, obviously keep your costs down, but then actually either you go through it yourself, because they're not going to pick up things like Gmail spelled incorrectly or in the wrong place, or so, but you will, because that's not really their job either, right? But you'll notice things. You'll notice, like, that they haven't picked up the first name, and you'll be able to pick up these things and really, you know, get your database really nice and clear. So super useful to get someone cheap to do it, but then you need to go back through it. And the thing about this is that when we went back through it ourselves, you know, we lifted the open rates from the second campaign to 66%. The first one, it was down around 30. So we're like, man, and huge bounces, like way too many bounces. And even using sign-up forms like clipboards and that, you shouldn't get that many bounces. And one way I've learned is to get people to write in capital letters. But hey, look, really useful when you're at expos to have the clipboards there. And then we'll get to QR codes and why you should be using those, because they're actually even easier these days. So tips and tools. So clipboard and pen. I think that is an easy way, right? Like I've just said, it's easy. Another one is just you. It's you asking for that, right? So it's you and your phone. And on your phone, you can either have a sign up form. So the sign up form page on your website might be, let's just say our one is spike.co.nz/newsletter. We've decided to set that up. And so you can just have that saved to your home screen and you can open it up and then you can just fill in their details. I invented this thing a few years ago, or lots of years ago, called the trawler. And what it did was it set up a workflow of emails depending on where you're at. So say if you're at BNI and you've just met someone, and it's like you could actually have the email that came out to them could say, hey, great to meet you at BNI today. So you can actually personalize these workflows depending on where you're at. And I thought that was really cool. So I set this thing up. And at the time, there was no MailChimp app. So we were able just to, put a link on your phone, and then you open it up, fill out the form, and away you go. And then if you're at an expo or somewhere else, and I've got some case studies where we use forms like this, you can totally personalize those emails going back to the people that sign up because you know exactly where they signed up and what they were after. So you can personalize it, right down to almost the time of the day, right? So the next thing is the MailChimp app. So this is a game changer. If you're using MailChimp and you've got their app, you can create campaigns on the fly. You can, sign people up. You can do all of these things that you can do within MailChimp itself. So there is some limitations, but how cool would it be if you could sign someone up somewhere and then, you've gone around and you've signed up a few more people and then you send an email to them. Like you can do that right from your phone, right at the time. And I think that's very, very useful, right? And then the next thing is your staff and your team. One thing, they are a great tool to sign people up. And every single touch point that people have with your business should be, it's a marketing touch point, right? So you should be asking for an email. And I just see some businesses do that really, really effectively and grow massive databases. Jenny Franich from John Franich Jewelers in Northwest, that they are very, very good at getting people's email addresses. So either when they're doing a sale or when they're talking to them, and they put it straight into the database and we welcome them on. It happens really quickly. And so, if you do have a store or if you're at an expo, make sure that everyone knows, everyone has goals, to how many email addresses you can collect today. Actually, as quite I don't know where this aside is going to go, but Genghis Khan invented this idea of teams of 10, right? So he had groups of men and of 10 and they worked together. I mean, there was horrible consequences if they didn't all work together. But they also had their goals, and their goals was 10 people that they basically had to kill. So but because they worked together in tens and tens, like, can you imagine, like, that's why they were so successful, because he just had these ways of working. And like that whole idea of word of mouth out from the pyramid, like, I don't know, I feel like it started from him actually. But yeah, it started off with, 10 leaders into 10, into 10, into 10. And because of that, they could just, exponentially do huge damage. But in your case, you could exponentially sign up a lot more people if you are getting people to help you sign up. So your staff, if you have them, you really have to embed in the culture of what you do that you collect email addresses. I think I said that enough. Okay, case study. So Duncan Venison sells venison. They're a big exporter of venison. And then they decided to actually start selling it over here, which at the time wasn't done either. Like when they first started, we went out there and sending, like, the logistics around sending, cold meat out to people was a cool challenge that they got into, and they solved it really, really well. So they wanted to take advantage of an expo to grow their customer list like really, really quickly. And so what we did for them is we created these forms that they could use on iPads and on their phones. And they just had them, they had their team all had them. And then they had one set up statically. And so they would just direct people to sign up. You could win, it was like a couple of $1,000 worth of free meat, which was amazing, right? So, while they were sampling the product, they could also go into the draw to win, the same product. And like it was quite an amazing uptake. I mean, they grew their database over 3,000% in just 3 days. It was like, we're talking thousands and thousands of people who signed up. And we were able to then, onboard them, tell them about the competition, and then start selling them more venison. That worked really, really well. And as you can see, it looks cool too, right? Like if you've got something that looks nice, people are more likely to use it. And we just ask them for the basic information, name, first name, last name, email address, done. It's sent them out an email straight away as well. So this is where, man, I'm going really fast today too. So sorry about that, but QR codes are back. And QR codes, you need to put them everywhere if you can, right? So what if when you're scanning your COVID QR code, you're also like put something else next to it, which is cool, which is like, hey, scan this code and go into our weekly draw to win a free coffee and muffin, or scan this code and this happens. So at the same time they scan your COVID code and they've got their phone open, they can scan your other code and go into a draw or get a discount or, get some money off as they're walking up. And if you are, at an expo or at an event, like it's pretty easy to do that kind of stuff. You could have it on your card, you could have it on your laptop, you could have it, so you just turn your phone over and there's a QR code that people can scan. Business cards are kind of dead in some respects because handing out paper and that all the time. But why they're dead though is because it's so easy just to get your details. But if you've got something where you can just scan the QR code on the back of it, like people will do that, right? I mean, they could scan and book an appointment with you. There's so many things that you can do with QR codes. The easiest way to generate them is in Google Sheets. And if you do a search for that, so how to generate QR codes in Google Sheets, it's a very simple copy and paste code. You have a couple of columns. In one column, you put you'd say A, you'd put the domain name or the URL you want to put in. The next column, you have the code pasted in there, and it will generate the QR code. And then from there, you can actually, in Google Sheets, you can actually generate the size of image that you want. And then from there, you can actually export them all as JPEGs, which we did for all the super liquors around. And it works really, really well. So you can print them, you can make sure they're print ready and get them anywhere. But yeah, Google Sheets, because I know that is a question that people are going to ask me. How do I generate a QR code, Glenn? You go to Google Sheets, you create a sheet. I think you can do it in Excel as well, because it is just a sum. It's just and then you paste this thing in, job done. So do a search for it. It's really, really useful. I'm a big believer in QR codes. I think they are just so useful. Like when you're sending out your packages, scan me to win this or scan me to do this, like the origin story of you or about us, all of that kind of thing. All of those kind of tactics, really useful, scan to find out more about this product. Really useful. People will use them. So this is the next case study, and it's for SsangYong. So your favorite cheap vehicle, quality vehicle brand, something like that, their line is. So SsangYong. So their goal again was to quickly generate a list of qualified buyers. Actually, their goal is slightly different, right? What they were after was qualified buyers who would actually buy cars off them after field days. So not only were they trying to sell cars at field days or vehicles, they were also then generating qualified buyers who had trade-ins. So what we were asking them for was more than just their contact details, because they were entering into a competition. But we were also like finding out when they were in the market, or if they were in a market to buy a new vehicle, and what their trade-in was, like what was their current vehicle that they were driving. So the solution was, actually, we had to smash this out. We did it in like 2 days. And thanks to Josh Lindsay from Direct Mail Solutions, we were able to print all the forms. They were pads, you know, like all glued in that. He did an amazing job to turn those around for us. But we had like 2 different bits of collateral, because we had SsangYong and LDV at the same time. And so again, another competition. It was a very expensive Traeger grill, which obviously appealed to the people that were at field days. So when you're thinking about competitions or giveaways, really have a think about what would appeal to your customers, because it's not always just your product, right? It might be an experience that kind of aligns with your product. It might be something totally out of the left field. So say, I'll give you a good example. We have a client, Equip Outdoors. So Equip Outdoors sell camping equipment. And what we've done is we've partnered with a coffee company called Epic Coffee. And Epic Coffee sell this idea of like, having coffee in the outdoors. Like they're really into outdoors and camping and tramping and all of that kind of stuff. And they've come up with this idea of a coffee sachet. And so what we're doing is whenever someone ticks over to a VIP customer, which is when they buy a certain amount of times off Equip Outdoors, we actually just put one of these sachets and into their parcel. But we don't tell them that we're going to do it. And it's just like this surprise and delight. But like we get a lot of repeat sales out of doing things like that. So anyway, that's just a quick aside for you. But have a think about when you're doing your giveaways, what you can align with your business and who you can partner with potentially to help grow your business as well and help get more signups. So again, we had the forms on the iPads, and then we actually had these forms, and it was really interesting because people would fill them out completely. And then we had boxes sitting around that they would put them into. Another thing that we did with this, and I have spoken about this before, but it worked really well. And this is what you can do with your staff is run a competition, like who can get the most signups and have them win something, So the staff with SsangYong, I can't remember what they were going to win, but we made it into a competition and it worked really, really well. Anyway, the outcome was they sold 126 vehicles during field days. This is like the most ever vehicles sold. And then they just kept selling them afterwards. And the Traeger grill obviously went to a very good home as well. So that worked very, very well. So the next thing is we're actually coming to the end today. I've kind of raced through it maybe. But that'll give us a lot more time for Q&A. So this is the line to use and where to start. Have you got an email address I can send that to? Now, this is my never fail line that came out of spending 3 days telemarketing a database for Bay European down in Tauranga. So I actually went back to people who had kind of said no on day one and got them to sign up because I got really good at it. But here's the trick, the tip, the hack, whatever. You've got to have really nailed what they're signing up for. Because if you haven't nailed that, like, why should they? This goes for your website as well. And I know I talk about this a lot, but to me, it starts with your About Us page, right? So your About Us page needs to be you, why you started your business. Because if it's not, it's going to look like every other drop shipper almost, right? So get personal on that About Us page. Who you are, put photos of yourself on there. Do whatever, but make it really personal. And then, because then you can ask for them to, receive information from you, right? And that's, have you got an email address I can send that to? So we send a weekly email about X, Y, and Z, right? It's really useful. Here's what some people say about it. And then you might say, in person, you would say, have you got an email address I can send that to? But online, it would be, enter your best email to receive these weekly, tips and tricks or whatever today. So, but that line, you've told them that you're doing something really valuable, and because you will be perceived as an expert because, you're in business and you started it because you're good at something, then, that perception, it just carries on with, here's what I do. Here's how often I do it. Have you got an email address I can send that to? Generally people will say, yep, here you go. Here's my email address. Because first of all, most people are polite, but also in person, I think you sell better than online. So, that's where you've got to think about what you are saying online as well. Because if your sign up form just says subscribe to my weekly newsletter, there's no reason for that, right? But if I've read this really cool About Us page and I'm really interested in you and your product and your service, then I'm more likely to sign up. And I'm trying some new ideas at the moment about how to do that. Like potentially, like I'm just going to have a newsletter or something in my menu. And on that page, that's all there is. It's just sign up for the newsletter. There's nothing else on that page. So they have one thing to do. So I'm just testing that out at the moment to see, how that affects people. So you won't see it just yet, but at the end, I'll give you a link to the page and it'll just be very clear what you're signing up for. And then, the details we need to do that. So have you got an email address I can send that to? So I just wanted to go through some workflows that, rely on this, right? So, this is for Facebook ads. And you can see here that start at Facebook, we've got some images that we're using. And then we're retargeting people once they get to different places along the journey. And then, it was full cover. So on those points, like at that very start, this is like you at your expo or you at an event. This is how you have to think about your ads, keep them really short and sweet and get those people across onto your website. And then you need to be retargeting them, because if they didn't sign up, why not? Hey, I see you didn't sign up to my newsletter. Did you know, here's a link to some past copies. You can start thinking about retargeting people, because in what we're seeing is that retargeting in Facebook ads is working really, really well. And then creative. It's all about the creative. So it's testing all those different lines. And why I've put this in is because this is a place where you can test. You can test lines really quickly. You can try all sorts of different things, right? At a very low cost, and just see which ad works the best, which one gets them clicking through the fastest, right? So this is why I put this in here, because I feel like, you can use Google ads to test as well. But the thing is that, for most people, Facebook is the quickest way to go and start testing. With Conviction, this is a new skincare brand. We're using acquisition through YouTube. You should go and have a look at YouTube ads for sure. Google. and then Facebook as well, straight through to here. We are actually using a pop-up and a sign. And so we've got the sign up form and we're moving that around the page to see what works best, like where we're getting. And we do have a pop-up. Now, I love pop-ups, right? However, if they're not working properly, like on mobile, they can definitely be a pain, right? So, we see a lot of people set up pop-ups, and then, an issue is you can't close them on mobile because the X isn't there. So I do think pop-ups work really, really well. And the pop-up, you need to really think about, this is another place to test your lines, because a pop-up is a really short message before someone leaves or while they've been on your website for a few minutes, because like, hey, it looks like you like us, or you're really interested in what we do, sign up to receive $10 off your first sale. But have that always pause. I think like too many people have them set up to come up straight away, and I don't think that's useful. You need to wait until someone's been someone's been on your website for a while. Because if you think about it, if you went up to someone at a networking event and you don't want to be the person that's just handing out cards, right? You do not want to be that person. So, because it's kind of rude. So I think you want to be the person that gets to know someone, sees if you're valuable and that you can help them. And then, have you got an email address I can send that to? So you wouldn't do it in person. So why would you do it on your website? Like Shopify has made it very easy to put a lot of stuff in the way of what you want people to do. And generally what you want people to do on your website is buy. So don't think about like all these apps that you're using and paying for, and, just think about what you're trying to achieve, which is sell stuff or sell a product. And just make sure that the hurdles are as low as possible to get to that point, and get that email address if they aren't buying right now. And then you can stay top of mind with them and then prompt an action when they're ready to buy. So just quickly on this one here, you can see like that goes into MailChimp, and then they get a welcome email, and then we've got a welcome series that starts off, and that's all about the different skincare and why you should be interested in it and using. So here's another way to get data that I thought might be useful for you, because, we're in red, and I'm not sure exactly what people's idea of going to, populated events and that are. So LinkedIn, here's a really good way to get data and build your list. So run a poll. Like there are a lot of polls out there, but I think that if you run one that's really useful, it can help you as well. So here's how this one's going to help me. So, excuse me, a lot of businesses tell me they'd like to send a weekly email, but always have an excuse. So what's the one you think I hear the most? And it's very funny because, I was very limited to what I put in there, but those were the top three, right? And you can see that the top one is, I don't want to spam people. So you can see that I could have a pop-up, or I could have something useful about how not to spam people and grow your list, or how not to spam people and make more money from your email. So have a think about what you could use polls for, because, LinkedIn is just getting bigger and bigger, and people are getting more personal, and there's a lot of awesome information on there. So it's worth getting involved. But those are the three that I hear about the most, right? And so, you can easily adjust that to suit you, and then you can use that as when you're talking to people, hey, we send this, we find a lot of people think they're spamming people. I can send you 5 tips on how not to spam people. Have you got an email address I can send that to? Just stuff like that, right? I hope this is just prompting a few thoughts for you. So our newsletter, get 2 useful emails every week. So I write 2 emails a week to kickstart your thinking and help you send better email. On Monday, you receive the Monday Motivator, and on Thursday, the Get Spiked email marketing tips. Enter your email address below, and then you join it. So this is the test that I'm doing. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes, but I'm taking all my sign-up forms off like my website. So I'm not going to have them in the footer. I'm just going to have a button, and it'll sell it. So it'll all be about selling and then go through to this page. So we'll see. I'll report back. So look, to me, it's time to win with your email. And if you'd like to send a weekly email to your customers so you can make more money from your email, I can help. And I think it's worth spending 15 minutes to see what that looks like for you. So if you'd like to spend those 15 minutes, email me today, glenn@spike.co.nz, and let's see if it'll work for you. So thank you. And now it's time for my favorite part, which is Q&A. So I'll stop sharing.
Cool, amazing, great. That was so cool. It was interesting for me because I'm actually signed up to Kelly Woods. I signed up at the food show, I think. So I was like,
Did you?
Yeah. So it was like a bit of a behind the scenes, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, that was cool.
What
I
question?
guess yeah, let's go into the questions. We had a few, and if you have any questions, it's never too late. Just drop them in the chat, the Q&A, wherever you are. I've just lost my chat. Where is it?
We've just got Matt Yellop. So I only know one Matt Yellop. So if that's you, nice to have you here, buddy. Someone was talking about you recently, so that was very cool.
Yeah, Matt joined one of our coughing questions, which is when it's like an open meeting kind of thing, and then we were like, oh, you guys knew each other, so it was quite funny.
Oh yeah, and that was definitely a slip of the tongue, was it? It's early. I need to drink some water. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. While you do that, we had a question of the 3K initial responses. I guess that was that case study before. Of the 3K initial responses, what was the conversion rate of repeat purchasing? Equaling converted customer from the first email to them after the event.
So they built a business off those 3,000. I mean, there was like another 1,000 or so people on the list, but they actually that could be a good logo, Matt. They built a really good business off the back of that food show, because here were people. So here's the thing, right? Have you heard about the idea of a starving crowd? Where do you sell hot dogs? To a starving crowd, right? So you put your hot dog stand outside a stadium or something like that, So this is where they were at a food show, and it's by the time they got to them, they're probably not really a starving crowd, but they're the crowd that they wanted to talk to, and they built a very good business off the back of those 3,000. So I can't tell the exact numbers, Lara, because that would be their commercial ideas, their commercial stuff. But I can tell you that from there on in, we were definitely doing a very good amount of orders every week. So they were very happy. And then what should be considered a good conversion rate of long-term customers from this marketing channel? A good conversion rate. Okay, so I'm going to just answer that the best way, because that's quite an in-depth question. Converted customer first year. Okay. So really, you're going to get obviously like a big drop off. And it's up to you in some ways, like how much churn you get, but you are going to get churn. So churn is interesting, right? Churn is unsubscribes and hard bounces in email marketing terms, right? So you would be trying just to keep that churn down and try and work out rhythms and look at subscription packages and things like that to try and keep that down. I mean, this is, HelloFresh and all of those have this issue, right? So, but actually, do you know what? I don't know the answer to that, Lara. I think it'd be very specific to every business. So, most businesses have a churn rate of around, let's say 10%, and that would be good, So, yeah, it does depend. I hate that answer, but it kind of does. That's a really good question though. I could answer to it someone's specific business if I had the data and I knew what their churn rate was and stuff. But like to say it like overall, that's pretty difficult. Sorry about that. Oh yeah, nice. Thanks, Matt. So Matt said, did write that everything got cancelled last week while you were planning the talk. Sign up competition form on website, then push that hard into Facebook as a genius, simple plan in lieu of the cancelled face-to-face events. Thanks. I would also put that onto, we're doing that on LinkedIn as well, Matt. So, I think LinkedIn is definitely becoming a very important place to be, no matter what business you're in. I used to say that my customers weren't on LinkedIn, but now they are. They definitely are. More smaller business owners getting on there. There's a thing called an event called The Lounge, run by Stu Lees, that happens every day at 9:30. He started it during lockdown in 2020. It's still going today, and things like that are really useful, right? So, you can push these through all platforms. Lara, by having a response from a QR code, should we then see this as permission to engage? Thinking, yeah, of course, because there'll be something there that says, sign up to do this, scan this to do this. And so, yeah, of course you can engage, because it's exactly like a sign up form. Exactly. Only there's a different way to get into it. So, yeah, I mean, you can do it with text messages as well, right? Like if you wanted to pay for a big sign on the back of buses, which we've done before, and you can use SMS. You also have a QR code on the bus too, because while it's standing still or parked up, people can scan it. But, so many different ways. And yes, it's definitely permission. Cool. From Facebook, could you please mention some tools? Sure, MailChimp. And I'm going to talk about MailChimp a lot because so MailChimp app, really, really useful. Some tools. What else? Well, a tool to me is like a QR code, but really just your phone. So what do they mean by tools, do you think, Tip? What would you take from that? You're muted, buddy.
Classic. I think they mean like, say your MailChimps, like, I guess, to start emailing. And, I guess a lot of our users don't send newsletters yet. So I guess that's the kind of like where to start. Like, what are some good like entry level tools, I guess?
Yeah, a free MailChimp account's perfect, right? Because it's free. It has a lot of limitations, but at least you can put a form up on your website and start collecting email addresses, right? So I think like if it's online, that's it. That's the easiest place. I mean, you can use Excel if you want, but you always have to put it into an email platform. And, people are going to talk about all these other platforms, MailerLite and all this other stuff. And here's the issue I see with those. They're very much DIY, and they're very much, they start becoming costly to make changes in, because you can't just go to the MailChimp experts directory and get someone to do it, for you, or go to Upwork or something like that. So, I used to talk about a lot of other platforms as well, ActiveCampaign, Klaviyo, all of those. And this year I've decided that I'm not going to. And I'll mention them because for some business, but you know what? To get started, MailChimp is it, because you can just get so much more help. And also like the runway to leave MailChimp is just getting longer and longer and longer, because they've got the most money to spend on developing it. So, now they just sold for 12 billion US to Intuit. Like they have got a lot of money to really grow that platform even more. So, yes, those other tools have their place, but gosh, they are hard to use. And so start off with a free MailChimp account. At least you're in a platform that you can get lots of help and support from, either locally from, businesses like mine, or online. Oh, Alpha. Funny, dairy farmers. I'm doing a lot in agriculture at the moment. So Matt, is this, I'll just read this out so that everyone's got it. Our audience is heavy on Facebook, but dairy farmers not very active on LinkedIn, even thinking going old school and print adverts in the dairy focus rags to sign up online to try to drive that through MailChimp, to MailChimp. Our 5 main events around the country are 4/5 canned already. So need to do something. Good opportunity to try some different stuff, right? Yeah, absolutely. So I'm working with AgDrive at the moment. And in 2020, AgDrive, like basically their business was gone because and they had to totally change to AgDrive actually, so that they started doing training. So we're just helping people about that. What's interesting about dairy farmers is that they are generally quite technologically savvy. However, I find that a lot of the times it's the wife who's actually because a lot of dairy farms, if people don't know this, a lot of dairy farms, in fact, some of the most effective and efficient, well-run, well-managed, make the most money dairy farms are actually husband and wife teams. Like they might have like 180 to 250 cows that they can milk like by themselves, and then maybe get some help every so often, and so but the wife is generally like hooked into technology because she's running the back end doing office work. I mean, she'll be out doing other stuff as well, but that's kind of how it kind of works, right? But the guys, when they come back, they'll jump online, they'll jump on the different websites and things. So I think like you can run Google ads and be targeting those guys. And also, Matt, I think that YouTube is like the place to go because they're all watching YouTube, right? And I think YouTube is going to be the place. It's cheap leads for a lot of people. So, and if you're doing events and live events or things, you can run them through YouTube as well. So but I would think about some of those, I love print. And the thing is right now, I think there's a great opportunity if you're not in a hurry, right? To get stuff into people's letterboxes because no one else is, right? And I've just said, and even though I'm saying this, no one's going to do it because they're going to think, oh, that's going to cost me a lot of money. And it's not really, because if you know your audience and you know where they are and where they live and all that kind of stuff, putting something in their letterbox is going to work. I mean, gosh, it's worked for real estate agents forever. So, like have a think about what you can do. You have to provide value though, right? So, if you chose an area and then like really focused on that area, like real estate people have a farm area, for example, 800 to 1,000 houses, and they just get to know all those people in that area, man, they kick ass because if they keep putting something in the mail in the letterbox, whenever you're thinking about selling a house, the first person you'll probably think of is, oh yeah, that's right. I'll go and talk to those people first. I don't know. Hopefully that's helpful.
That is cool. Yeah.
Anything else from your side? Oh, actually, I just saw some more questions.
Yeah, we got some in the Q&A. So,
hey, Glenn, is there a direct connection tag for sorting the sign-up form for MailChimp? Still having issues not showing on the website. Yeah, so actually, Charlie, it was you that I was thinking of when you were talking about that. I feel like you might have to move to a different pop-up, which would be sumo.com. I think that's probably going to start it. How early would you start sending Valentine's Day marketing emails? I'm thinking, so it's in 14 days now, 2 weeks. Yep, I'd be 2 weeks out. I wouldn't like market it heavy, but I'd mention it in my copy. Hey, we've got a Valentine's deal coming up. Watch out for it next week. So I would preempt it so they're kind of aware that it's coming. And then I would launch the campaign like maybe on that week. So always tell them about it up front and then launch it hard.
We got another one as well, which is, I guess, when you're at events, like, do you, because, I guess some people go towards like, getting like social follows and stuff versus emails. What do you reckon is like the best option if you're going to get one, I guess?
So it comes down to this. Do you think that social sells? If you do, you're mistaken. So, and I didn't know how else to put that. Sorry, Tip. But the thing is that it's just not valuable. You know, an email address is valuable. Email addresses do not change very often. This whole burning thing that, you know, Apple put out, is it being used? Not that we can see, not that often, right? So, because, you know, you're just putting your normal one because you actually want to receive it. So, no, to me, businesses are built on customers. Your customers might be on social, but you need to be converting them all the time into your database, because you can't welcome them on social. Like you can't, you know, like for me, I get a lot of exposure on social through MailChimp, right? Does it drive what I want it to do? Only if I have a link in there to go and sign up. And so, you know, like once you've got that email address, that means a couple of things. One, it means that they're actually interested in your product or service. And then two, you can talk to them. And like, if you think about it as a personal conversation, which I'm really trying to talk to people about, make it personal. Like you're talking, like you and I are talking right now, Tip, like, or how I'm answering my questions. Just use language like that, you'll win. And it's, yeah, it's the only way that you're going to grow your business. If you're out there wanting to get more followers on social and all that, well, here's the problem with that. What is it? Less than 1% of people are going to see your post, right? But 30, 40, 50, 60% of your email customers are going to see your newsletter. Which one do you want? You want 1% or do you want 60? I think the answer is pretty clear. And that's why I'm very bullish on this stuff. You know, I think that all the channels have their place, but people are not using them properly. That's my answer.
No, that's good. That's perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. I was like, feeding that in. Because, yeah, I mean, like, because I used to work agency and we did all the other channels, but they didn't let us touch email. And it's because, you know, it's the one that they would like to do in-house, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a lot of people, you know, like we're really good at building and sending lots of emails, right? So that's why people come to us. And to be honest, like I think that everyone should be sending a weekly email. You can do it. By the way, it's not a newsletter every week, right? It's a weekly email, something useful. And if someone says to me, if anyone on this Q&A today who's left right now thinks that they don't have the time, and then they think about the 3 posts they just made on LinkedIn or Facebook today, why weren't those emails? It's the same stuff. You don't have to reinvent it. You don't have to write a missive. You don't have to write a newsletter. Just post cool stuff. Stay top of mind. That's all you have to do in your emails as well. And if you do that, you'll be able to send a weekly email and people will find it useful. And then if they think it's too many, you know, you give them a way to opt down to a monthly one or something like that. So e-commerce businesses should be sending like at least 3 or 4 emails a week, depending on, you know, how many products they have to a point, but they should be, because like the guy who we do that for, man, his business has grown through COVID. Well, all our clients send about that many emails, to be fair. So, and they've generally grown through COVID and over the last 2 years, and they're still in business. And the ones who pull back on their marketing and, oh, I don't want to spam people and, oh, I don't know what I'm going to say. You know, I hate to see where you are now, because that'll just be a terrible place. So, yeah, I think it's just excuses and people don't want to put in the work. So that's why I did that poll tip. And it was funny. People don't want to spam. People don't want to spam. And do you know what? There is a law called the Anti-Spam Act. You won't spam. And like, you won't. You'll send really useful information that your customers want to hear from you. And so that's it.
Yeah. Not cool. That's great, because I am part of the like digital support team, and I feel like we don't get enough people asking about emails. We get a lot of like social and, you know, all that kind of stuff, which is important, but, you know, I think it's, you know, important to think about everything, including email.
It is. It is tip. And the reason that people don't ask about it is because Facebook spends, $1 billion a year or whatever it is, some huge amount of money telling you that social is the place where you should be spending your time. And look, Tracy Aramawana from Aramawana Jewelry, she had a chat to us. She converted what her time that she was spending in social into sending emails, and she sends an email every Sunday. Just kicking ass for her, she tells us, right? Because like she did have the time. She was just, it wasn't focused on building her business. It was focused on building her followers. And this is where it's like, you've really got to think about your goal. Are you growing a business, or are you growing a following on somebody else's platform as well, right? Like you do not own your data on Facebook or even LinkedIn in that. Or LinkedIn's slightly different, but because it's Microsoft, but also but Facebook, like email, you own it. They are yours. You can export them to Excel and move them whenever you want. They are not anyone else's. You make the rules. Like, it's the best place to be.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Any last questions, please put them in. Otherwise, we'll ramble for the next 3 minutes. But that's definitely super cool, because I guess I've worked everywhere else except email. So even for me, this is great in terms of just for everything.
I'm very bullish on email too. And this year I've decided people need to make their lives simple. And like I had two emails, like a couple of emails come in, and one of them used Flowdesk and the other one used OmniSend. And I'm like, who's going to fix those? Who's going to work on that for you? I decided that this year, no, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not going to go and pay for my guys to go and learn another platform to help you out. You just need to move to MailChimp. And then, do you know what? When your business gets to a couple of $1 million a year, or, you're making, $10,000 a week or $20,000 a week off your customers, then you can start looking to move, potentially, right? But before that, you don't need to move. You can run, we're talking to customers who, are doing 100K, couple 100K a week or whatever on MailChimp. New Zealand businesses are just not that big, to move. So, yeah, but there are definitely some businesses where the tools, you could move and it could be useful, but they are very rare in this country. Yeah, we're just not big enough, right? The best Facebook targeting is go broad in New Zealand, because it doesn't work. We're only 4-5 million people. Facebook works on way bigger numbers than that, and so everyone wants to do targeting and interests and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't work. The audiences are just too small, and you're probably not spending enough money to get the result. So go broad and test your creative, and you'll get far more people signing, and moving those people to sign up. I'm sure we could have a conversation about it, but
definitely.
But for most people starting out, at the beginning, just go broad, go simple, get people signing up. That's how to start.
Definitely. Yeah, and definitely play around with your creative as well. That's something that super important.
It's so important. Thanks, man.
I guess. Yeah. Do you have any closing thoughts to end us today?
Look, I think, with the moving to Red, we decided to do this last year as one of my topics. But I do feel that it is important to work out the best way to collect email addresses and leads from your Zoom calls, from your any in-person meetings you're doing, from your store, from your market thing. So that's why using QR codes is going to work, and just training your staff up to ask. Just keep asking, deliver value. Here's what we're going to do. Have you got an email address I can send that to? That's it.
Amazing. Cool. And what's your email again?
It's glenn@spike.co.nz. Glenn with 2 N's at spike.co.nz. If you'd like to send a weekly email, I can show you how. Give me a call and we'll see if it's right for you.
Yeah. Cool, amazing. Well, yeah, thanks again for your time. It's been really great for me to meet you, and I think we've got you soon, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, have a great rest of your day, everyone, and yeah, have a good day. See you later.
Kaki day. Thanks,
Tomorrow.
Tip.